Aaron, you and I have been playing a lot of Ghost Recon Breakpoint. We have mixed opinions, I'd say. We have a review on the way from Richard Wakeling, but right now you can read his review impressions. For the most part, he has said that it's glitchy, buggy, the AI is not super great, and it feels very much like a Ubisoft game.
Yeah. All right, so let's dig into that. That was the initial 10-hour impression. You and I are a bit further into the game now.
I think I'm around level 60 or 70, right?
Yeah, and the raid is still a ways off. It's weird that this game has a raid, but let's talk about how like the basic systems of this game kind of clash with each other. Mm-hmm. So this is supposed to be a stealth game with light survival elements where you're trapped on an island. What it actually is, moment to moment, is a looter shooter, which is kind of against the idea of a stealth game. Now, here's the thing. You can play this game as a stealth game, and you actually will probably get more enjoyment out of it doing it that way.
Yeah, I think that's the most, I guess, tactical way to play, right? Because you're aiming for headshots, you're playing silence, you're doing stealth kills. You're not really engaging with that spongy aspect of a loot shooter. So that, I think, is the best way to play it, especially with friends and you guys are sneaking around. And I think when, like, the feeling of being hunted is actually kind of cool, right? Like when there's drones overhead and you kind of panic for a second, you hop on the ground, hide in grass, maybe cover yourself with mud or whatever to get away from it. Like that feeling is kind of cool.
There are some genuinely cool moments like that. It's almost as if you have to role play in this game. Like, I think, one of our coworkers, Matt, was saying that when his stealth gets blown, he kind of just gives up. You don't have to. I mean, you can just go loud in this game. When you do that, I feel like that's when the AI really breaks down. For example, they'll funnel up a hallway en masse until you gun them all down, or like just sometimes stop functioning when you just start shooting.
I will say that if you crank it up to a harder difficulty, I'm playing on advanced right now, which I think is the penultimate difficulty, the AI doesn't feel bad. And I know a couple people have said that, including our reviewers, said the AI is not very great. You've had bad experience with the AI. I've definitely run into bugs with the AI, but they're a little bit more aggressive. I see them trying out different tactics. They're not always successful with these tactics, but they, in some sense, kept me on my toes. Now, I'm not saying the AI is fantastic, but I didn't think it was terrible.
And I've had some genuinely great moments in co-op, like crawling across a field for my life while being covered by friends. Or like, somebody on Overwatch saving your butt at the last minute. Mm-hmm. Like you do have those tense moments when you play with other people on the right difficulty.
Yeah, like I was playing with Mike Mahardy and our helicopter got shot down. We went down in the middle of nowhere. We were like 2 kilometers away from our objective, and all these patrols started merging on us because we crashed the helicopter essentially, and immediately we scrambled. We were like, how are we going to get out of this? So we hid, kind of repositioned ourselves, and used that helicopter crash as distraction to take out all these squads. And that was really cool, and that felt really good. The only issue is that is one short moment of a lot of moments of just loot shooting, like traveling in a helicopter for a long time, traveling, like trying to get from point A to point B, watching an animation of you setting up a camp every single time.
Oh my God. They really do need a button that just says, please activate this camp.
Yeah.
I do not want to go into this camp.
Have you found a way to skip it? Because I haven't found a way to skip it. Maybe I'm just not hitting the right button. Maybe they'll patch that in at some point. But yeah, I haven't been able to skip it, and they are long animations. And that's another thing about difficulty too, right? Because if you plan on easy difficulty, there's no reason to use these bivouacs, which I think could be a huge part of the game. But if you're playing on easy, like, what's the point?
Contact! We got hostiles, people!
Okay, that's actually a really good point, though, to talk about Endgame. So here's my fear. We've all put a bunch of hours into this game right now. Games like this, like Destiny, for example, that were loot shooters, kind of throw away the first, X hours, 10, 20, 30 hours. They just throw them away because you're really just trying to get to, like, the legendary gear and then engage in the real game. Division 2 was it did a better job, but kind of like that.
Yeah, these games are getting better at leading you into that end game, I would say. But yeah, to your point.
So my fear is that the first, and I can't confirm this or not, but the first part of this game is kind of miserable and against the stealth aspects with all the getting distracted by collecting loot and no need to craft because you're just always getting handed guns. because there's something that they want you to do at the end. They keep hinting they want you to fight, like behemoths and high-level robots, and there's a raid coming, but
Which breaks my brain. A raid in a Ghost Recon game. I don't understand it.
they're heading in that Division direction. It's just games like this potentially, and I'm not saying it's the case here because I don't know yet. They keep throwing away the meat of their game and tacking it onto the end. So you have a pretty mediocre experience until you hit this point. And we haven't hit that point yet, so that's my fear, that you do need to start crafting at some point. And
yeah, that is a fair fear, or that I see that. However, the thing with games like The Division and Destiny is that even though a lot of that beginning middle section is kind of throwaway, engaging with the game is still fun. There are still good enemies to fight. There's a good feeling when you pull the trigger in games like Destiny and things like that. This has its moments, right? You score headshots, you clear a base stealthy, that's fine. But the UI is kind of a mess. It just doesn't feel as polished as a game like Destiny or even The Division.
There's so many immersion breaking moments too, like the prison mission you just mentioned. It asks you to rescue prisoners, and when you open the cell, the prisoners are just standing there with a rifle.
Yeah, or I've had bugs where my co-op buddy who I'm playing with, he's outside of a helicopter that he's flying for some reason, which are kind of funny. Sure, they're immersion breaking, but at least they're not game breaking, right? I can still play it. I roll my eyes at it.
I've had NPCs, main NPCs, not follow me out of hot zones, and I legitimately had to knock them out with a helicopter and then revive them in order to get them to progress on the mission.
How did you knock someone out with a helicopter?
I got some helicopter skills.
But I think the other big thing to talk about with this game, too, are the microtransactions, which have been a hot button issue, I would say, since this game, on Tuesday, hit the early access.
To be fair, I think that they were just recently, they removed the most egregious ones that people were upset about.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, we're talking about all the systems in this game. There's just a lot of systems in this game. One of them looks like kind of a battle pass, and it's just really unclear what it's doing there. And then I think that fed into what you're talking about, where you could pay to maybe progress in that system, but you don't need to.
Yeah, from what I've played, I haven't felt the need to pay for anything. But once again, like you were saying about Endgame, maybe when you get to the end game, you're gonna have to do a lot of grinding unless you want to pay. But I don't know that because I haven't hit the end game yet. But where I am now, I haven't really felt the need to buy anything.
I haven't even felt the need to craft anything because everything is not particularly difficult, at least on normal.
You got a mean look in your eye. You got big plans?
The last thing I do want to mention is that the story, which oddly enough they put more of a focus on this game because Wildlands got a lot of heat for A, its setting, and B, just how poorly written it was. Almost to the point of being a comedy, I would say. Some of the things your soldiers would say were ridiculous. And this, they decided to double down on the story, but it's not better, but it's also not bad enough to be funny. So it's just kind of there. And what makes it worse is that you're kind of forced to watch these cutscenes. Sure, you can skip through some of them, but if you're like me and you have no interest in this story, and it hasn't done anything to hook me, so there's no reason for me to be interested in this story, you have to watch a ton of cutscenes, a ton of conversations with characters I don't care about, with bad voice acting, and it is just, it's rough. At least Wildlands had that pacing where you could move from one outpost to the next and you aren't constantly returning to this hub area where you had to essentially sit down and watch a bunch of cutscenes.
We're gonna kick some ass! This feels awesome.
Okay, so I just want to say that we are not the people reviewing this game. This is, our opinions.
Richard Wakeling, that should be up next week, hopefully.
And I will say, I think there's a lot of negative points in this game, but if you are willing to do, and this was similar in Wildlands, if you're willing to role play with the AI in this game and force yourself to play this game stealthy with friends on the right difficulty, I think there are some really fun moments to be had.
Totally. Yeah. I've had some great moments in this game. And a lot of people argue that, co-op games by nature are more fun, and I do agree with that. But there are some situations that you couldn't be in by yourself, that you can be with a friend or with a couple friends that I think make for some really interesting encounters. It's just all the other stuff that gets in the way that kind of keeps you from moving from those really interesting, fun situations to the next. I feel like the game is actively trying to push those situations away from me, which is frustrating.
You know, we'll see how this game develops. There might be an end game there that a lot of people just haven't got to yet.
And feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments below. Is this the sequel to Wildlands you've been waiting for? For me, no. But, you know, let us know.
All right, thanks for watching.